Now that it's officially fall, we have to get into the spirit of the fall season, and so today I am building a house for a sim who just moved back home to Newcrest to run the family farm, but also is going to school to become a doctor. So I had recently made a new shell challenge a couple weeks ago relating around the fall season, more inspired by the Adventure Awaits expansion pack, and to be fully honest, that pack is going to be my dream camping fall family game pack of all time. It's up there with Seasons, Parenthood, Growing Together, and all the things including Get Together, but mainly for the club system. The only reason is because I feel like family gameplay is just like lacking in a lot of different departments, and I think Adventure Awaits is going to be really good and is going to fill in that gap that we're missing, and hopefully for a long time when we get more, it might even like be more exciting. But today, I wanted to build a house for a sim named Richard Grant, who is a young adult sim who recently moved back to Newcrest to run the family farm while also going to school to become a doctor. Now, this sim named Richard, he is like not a really good, knowledgeable sim. He got into the doctor medicine degree program through a scholarship, but also too because he had connections, or more so his parents had connections in the higher ups to get him into that program. And I'm all about like getting my sims and make sure they have a good life, a good mindset, good money, good career, good family, all the things. But Richard has this problem where he's not understanding how to run a full-on family farm business. And so he decided to move back to his childhood home, which is actually this house. And what's the twist is that he actually never really lived here. He was born in this house, and then he like moved out of this house, or more so his parents took him out of his childhood home and moved him into his aunt's house. His aunt lives somewhere in Newcrest, and he's lived there his entire life. He was never raised with his parents because his parents were always traveling, doing different things, going to conventions, traveling abroad. They never really technically lived in the home, and they couldn't travel with a child, nor did they have the means or the energy or the time to take care of Richard. So he was raised by his aunt Sharon, and Sharon and Richard were like two peas in the pod. Great family dynamic. They're very close. In a way, like it's his second mom, without, saying that it's his mom, but they are related. They're, aunt and, nephew. And it's kind of a great like idea that they've grown this bond over time. And the family farm grew so much over time that they had to move all the stuff from Newcrest to Chestnut Ridge and a little bit in Hemford on Backley. So they're a big family business. The Grant family has this huge on farm in Chestnut Ridge, and they kind of like built it over time since the 1800s, and this house actually has been here since the 1800s. More so like the basement has been untouched, whereas the upstairs, where it's like only a 1 bedroom 2 bathroom house, it was kind of like there are several different horse urns in the basement, which is kind of scary and unsettling, but it's like the idea that this house has been here since the 1800s, and the people that lived here in the 1800s own horses, did nectar making, they won horse competitions, they've done a lot of different things, and that's kind of why the whole idea is like the Grant family has a farm in Chestnut Ridge, which is basically when we got Horse Ranch that introduced horses into the game. There's a lot of lore, a lot of storylines to it. And I think what I want to do with Richard Grant one of these days, and you'll see him eventually at some point when I show a photo or introduce him into a video, that Richard Grant is going to hopefully either run like some type of like business related to like gardening, farming in that way, or he'll find some like relative, some distant relative that he's never met, who's running like this like horse getaway camp or something in the new world Gibby Point, because I want to really use the new world, and I want to have so many getaways. And so I think how I'm going to do with like my overall gameplay videos for Adventure Awaits with Richard Grant is that I want him to run some type of like B&B or some type of like getaway for a couple of days where people come here for like maybe like Monday, Wednesday, and it's on like a weekly basis at like 10 a.m. or something like that, either for like medicine related stuff, or no, I think what I want to do is do like have Richard run a getaway every like Monday, Wednesday, maybe a Thursday, weekly type of thing at like 10 a.m. where he runs like a medical getaway of some type. They exercise, they do health workshops, they hold health classes because those businesses and hobbies. That hobby board is going to be so lucrative for Richard because he's going to teach people about the whole idea of like gardening, but also the idea of like charisma and a few other things that like are related to medicine essentially. You might even tap into the apothecary skill because in a way it's kind of like medicine, but it's not medicine, but it's another form of medicine. So I want him to like tap into a lot of different things and give him a lot of different skills. And I'll upload him to the gallery. He won't have any custom content on him, so he's gonna look a little bit bland, a little bit sad, but he's gonna look good though at the end of the day. So he won't be uploaded until I'm having the option to upload my early access content for Adventure Awaits. So it won't be for a while. You'll definitely see a photo of him eventually very soon, but I have so many good ideas for this pack because as a person who loves family gameplay, I live and breathe the idea where if Sims have the option to do anything, that's exciting. But when you tie into the kid realm, when kids have the option to do what teens, young adults, and elders can do, it makes the whole game experience more fun. And so Richard, living with his aunt for so many years, since he was like 19 years old, he never really got the opportunity to really go to camp himself. And so he's going to tap into the idea that he's going to have like these reliving these like formative moments because as a kid he went to school, he did these clubs but never really like had any friends. Sure, he was in these clubs, but he didn't like make friends in these clubs. He was there to do a thing and left. He was very strategic, he was very knowledgeable, but he was also like very antisocial, very shy, very quiet. And that doesn't mean like he can't make friends for being quiet and very shy. He just had a very hard time to find kids that could relate to his mindset, his style, his culture, his the way of living. And I think he was kind of embarrassed that he never really lived with his parents and he always thought his parents abandoned him because he was born in this house and he like maybe lived here for like 1 year and then was like he gotta go. So it was a very sad, tragic moment and he never had a friend. And so I think he's going to relive these formative moments that he once, saw with these kids at the local park and his school and the people in the hallway. Like he wants to have that childhood, but he never really had that childhood. He always wanted to strive for the best. He was very competitive, but he just like had a hard time tapping into that competitive side. So he would always get angry and frustrated and not understand how to like really go forth with what he really wants. And so when he had the call to one, move back to his childhood home and then also having to run the family farm in Chestnut Ridge and also in Hemford and Bagley, it kind of threw him into a loop of like realizing, why do I have to run the family farm? Why do I have to do this? Like he didn't ask for this. He didn't want to do this, but his parents told him, his literal parents said, hey, Richard, me and your dad, me and like your parents are like, we're doing these different things. We're traveling so much. We don't have time to really handle the family business. Can you do it for us? They knew what he was doing. They knew that he was in college and he has like a full course load. He has no job. So all of his money making was through like non-traditional things of like writing books online. And then eventually he like learned the idea that he could go into like the apothecary skill and like tap into that even more and like sell some like potions and medicine and things and cure other people. And he enjoyed that for a little bit while he was in school, but it kind of made him unhappy to do the apothecary and like join that career. And he just felt like alone and sad and frustrated. So that competitive side was like, I need a challenge. I need something to do. I need to go somewhere that challenges me. And so I think him moving from away from Bridechester to move back to Newcrest into his childhood home and then run the family business and while going to school full time and somewhat having a social life, I think he's enjoying it so far, but he's also struggling. So he might ask his Aunt Sharon for help at some point soon later in his, university career. Once he graduates, he can probably fully focus on it. But I want him to go to getaways. I want him to have some type of like enjoyment with his life. Maybe take, a semester off. Like enjoy that. Maybe go to a getaway for a couple of days, like go to retreats, have enjoyment. And so he might eventually tap into that. I don't know, but I think I'm really excited for Adventure Awaits. I've been playing with it for a while and I've been really enjoying the idea of it all. And it's just so good to have something new and something that I am actually really enjoying. And I've never been this excited about gameplay in so long, and I love gameplay. Gameplay is my soul, my bread and butter. Even though I do post literally only builds on this channel, and I have been doing that for quite some time, I'm a game player at heart. I'm a game player at my core, but I think I've always struggled the balance of how can I do gameplay and still have a like consistent upload schedule. And gameplay in me, I have to really be in the right mindset to do it. I have to have the right story to do it. And if I don't have the right story, I can't really do gameplay. And so building gives me another form of way of storytelling and gameplay, but through building, where I'm building a house and telling a story and making the house come to life through the words that I'm saying. And also the way I'm decorating too. I think a house can really tell who lives here, why they live here, what do they do, etc., etc. But I think lo and behold, at the end of the day, as long as you're enjoying it, that's all that matters. And I enjoy gameplay. So I'm very slow as molasses with gameplay videos, but whenever I upload them, I'm so excited to upload them because it's like either my favorite family, like the O'Connors, or eventually tapping into a lot of Adventure Awaits gameplay. Like I'm really happy. I think I've also been too like I have a better mindset on life, a better mindset on like my day-to-day life. I mean, relaunching my podcast for season 2, Hello Spring, is like coming out very soon, and I'm very happy with that. I've recorded 10 episodes with so many amazing guests on the podcast so far, and going to TwitchCon and going on a panel talking about charity fundraising and then my acting. I just feel happy. And I feel like I've been happy for a very long time, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I've been stuck creatively for a while, and I think building has filled in that void for me to feel creative but in a different way. And whenever I'm doing gameplay, I want to create it a certain way, which takes me forever to do. So I think I'm finding like the balance again. I'm finding the balance of how to enjoy gameplay and building and all the things that I'm doing. And it's all coming together as one. But I will say when I was building this, I was kind of like, I almost lost the plot for this build because the whole theme was around like fall and everything. And since Richard is moving back to this house in the fall season, it kind of made sense, but the house was decorated by his parents, and so the outside is not fully decorated, and Richard doesn't really have a lot of money to spend on decorations, let alone for the outside. All this furniture was literally just from his parents, and he had like boxes, like art prints and flowers here and there, so he owns very little things in this home. He has like a mixer that he got as a gift from his like 18th birthday from his aunt Sharon. And so he's grabbed things here and there as he was like growing up, but then most of the stuff was literally owned by his parents. He moved the bed from the center of the room to the edge of the wall because he's only one person, a single sim, doesn't have really much, and so he just lives here alone and enjoys his home. And I think also over time, when he realized that he didn't do much with his life, he wanted to also collect a lot of different keepsakes. Now, Richard, he has a keepsake box with nothing in it, really, but he does have like all these different little trophies that he has collected over his years. When he joined the Scout after school activity when he was in elementary school, his aunt Sharon encouraged him to be more outdoorsy, which resulted in him being competitive, but didn't really make friends joining that, like, after school activity and being a scout. Sure, his responsibility and all of his character values went straight up high and made nice with people, but never really had the mindset like, I want to make friends. But if I make friends, they might be my competitors. They might, overthrow me, and I can't have that. And so like he kind of like pushed people away as he was growing up. And I think that's why he's always been so struggling with the idea of like making friends, finding people that he can actually trust, or people that can trust him, let alone his own parents. His parents, he hasn't seen his parents, I'm not joking, in like 20 years. And he is one of those people where it's like, okay, I know my parents. I know what they look like. I know what they sound like, but I haven't seen them in like 20 years. And for all he knows, they could be like a hoax. It could be some type of like thing where his parents were never really real, for all we know. And for all he knows, his Aunt Sharon is actually his real mom, which in retrospect, it actually is. Plot twist, his Aunt Sharon is actually his real mom, and his parents were actually his aunt and uncle. So he calls Sharon, or his mom, Aunt Sharon. It's a weird thing. It's a weird like dynamic, but like it's a lot was going on with like their lives, especially like in the early like 1900s, late 1900s. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Let me like revert back of what I was trying to say. But no, I think honestly, his Aunt Sharon is his real mother, and his real parents are his actual aunt and uncle. But his real mom raised him, but they never really told him the truth ever. And he still doesn't know the truth. And in a way, you can't technically have like those type of like weird relationship type things in a family tree setting in The Sims 4. But with the relationship labels, you can like do that. And so in the relationship labels that we have with the system that I think we got with Growing Together, it's going to make it like it's his aunt, but it's actually his real mom, and his parents are his aunt and uncles. So the relationship tabs are all over the place, but it's there and it's not there at the same time, if that makes sense. Either way, lo and behold, Richard Grant's life is a hot mess express, and he's going to be downright crazy eventually when he finds out the truth. But what I want to do is go into the game and show you all the build in real time and give you a little bit of a tour of my house, especially for my fall theme shell challenge. Now, since Richard Grant is technically a single sim, has no money, going to school on a scholarship in the doctor career, he doesn't really have a lot of experience when it comes to interior design. His parents ran the family farm, now doesn't, and just travels the world however they want. And Richard is taking over that business. And so the majority of the furnishing is all his parents doing, the thrift stores that he's found, and like random bits and bobs that he's found in trash, and also flea market. But he does run the family farm, so he does have like some pumpkins and things that he has displayed throughout the entire house to kind of fit that autumn feel. And since he moved back in the fall, it kind of made sense to decorate it in that theme. But this is the general outside of the house, and this is the inside of the house with the layout. And now I will tell you, I'm not the best at layouts, and I try my best to wing it as I go. I do take a lot of inspiration from like videos, Pinterest, and even the gallery to kind of get an idea of what I could do, and then I just kind of go off the rails and hope for the best. So it's pretty closed off, but it's also kind of open and free flow that allows your Sims to kind of walk through everything with ease. But this is the entry area, and I'm really happy on how it turned out because I used the Grange Mudroom kit by Peacemaker that came out a couple weeks ago, and I literally waited for that kit to come out so I could finish this build. And now that the kit is out and I used it, I feel happy. And I went with more of a darker green, brown, black, white tone throughout the entire house. Since it is technically fall related, I felt like those colors made a lot of sense. And plus that kit has really good color swatches. Everything matches from that kit. You can tie it with Dream Home Decorator, Spa Day, literally any other pack, it will complement the Grange Mudroom kit, trust me. But I wanted to make sure it was very decked out with a lot of clutter, so that way it kind of looks like someone actually lives here, feels more realistic, and that's what I was trying to go for. So I added in like a speaker near the entryway, his thermo, his scout manual, some bags, some clutter, some coins, some glasses, and a bunch of other knickknacks, and of course his mirror, so that way he doesn't look very janky when he walks outside, because a janked up sim is not my sim, okay? But over here we have the seating area from the Grange Mudroom kit. I used the decoration box from Seasons because eventually in live mode, you can decorate your house with the season or the holiday that's happening at that time. And then over here is kind of like your living room, laundry, dining room, kitchen all wrapped into one. And I was at first going to split this down the middle where everything is closed off, because usually when there's too much space, I get overwhelmed and I never know how to fill in that space. But I'm learning to, let the space breathe and try my best to, decorate throughout the house, but not too much, if that makes sense. So we have the general laundry room over here tucked away in the corner. The sim does have a cat, technically two cats. So we have a cat tree over here, a pet bowl over here, and then we also have a scratching post over here. Normally, I know cats in The Sims 4 will literally scratch anything, so having this near the couch is probably not a good idea, but I still like the idea that it's there. But over here is the living room. I did not add a TV because Richard doesn't really like TV watching. He feels like it's actually like one of those things that really rots your brain, doom scrolling, just not really good in general. So he has no sense of entertainment, and all of his entertainment is usually walking outside, reading a book, doing whatever it might be, and that's about it. And I did mention he does have a keepsake box and some of these scout trophies that he's won as a child, but he doesn't really have a lot of mementos from his childhood that he can remember. So hopefully when Adventure Awaits comes out, he'll be able to remember all of those like childhood formative moments, and that will probably allow him to be more friendlier, more childlike, and then maybe possibly actually making friends. So we just added in a little photo frame here, a little fireplace, a broom that's not functional, but it looks nice on the side. And over here is the kitchen, which I have to say is my favorite part of the home. There's not a lot of appliances, but just the idea of the kitchen just looks very nice. We have the mixer from Home Chef Hustle. We have a coffee machine. We have our sink, our stove, and our fridge. But then what I usually do if my Sims houses are very small and their kitchens are kind of taking up the entire space, what I'll usually do is use a bar stool table like this height right here from the industrial loft kit and put it on the side of the counter with chairs that match the table. And I think with the color scheme and the vibe of the home, it just makes so much sense and it just fits very well together. So I'm really happy with the kitchen. And then this is actually his bedroom. I moved the bed from the middle to the edge of the wall because your Sims technically can scoot to the other side if they wanted to. So you can have a couple, two Sims in here if you wanted to do that way. But we have our bed here. We have a little sewing cross-stitching kit over here. His pumpkins that he grew in his backyard. I also added in some books so that way he can read in bed if he wants to. And then of course his computer desk, and he doesn't have a standard computer. He has a typewriter. So he's very old school, very kind of like a technophobe essentially, but he doesn't use modern day things, if that makes sense. So he has a typewriter computer. He also has his dresser, his phone, some magazines, and some more glasses. And then of course his hamper and suitcase that he has yet to actually unpack, which is sad, but it's true. And then over here we have his bathroom, very standard, very plain Jane, tub, toilet, and sink. I didn't do too much in here just because it is a standard bathroom, and I'm trying to get better at making my bathrooms look a little bit nicer with some class, like a plant or two, or some pictures, but I struggle with that. So I think I want to challenge myself to make bathrooms different, especially when I'm building a house for a Sim or a couple of Sims. And then back here we have our backyard. I have these garden patches from Cottage Living, and then of course some pumpkins that he'll be growing over time in the fall season. We have our grill, our picnic table, and then downstairs is our basement. Now, this is where it gets a little bit creepy because this basement has been here since the 1800s. And in the 1800s, a lot of Sims within the Grant family has owned this property. They've had horses, they have parties, they've had a lot of different things. But we have 4 horses urns here, a nice upright piano. We also have a nectar making station and also nectar rack. That way Richard can make some money over time because he has dabbled a little bit into the nectar making skill. So that way he can, one, drink the nectar over time or even store it and sell it after a while. Because his parents have made nectar in the past, and that's how they were able to own several different properties in Chestnut Ridge and in Hempford-on-Backley and here and travel the world. They are very wealthy. But Richard, not so much. He doesn't have a trust fund. He's not a Nepo baby. He's just a regular Sim with rich parents, and he's the one that's broke. And then over here we have a little guitar. And then on this side is actually the first bathroom that was built in the 1800s from the Grant family. Edward Grant is the sole owner of this house from the 1800s. And I made that name up literally just now. But this house is very old and ancient, and I thought adding in like wood related, bathroom appliances seemed like a really good idea. So having the tub and also the sink here was like a really good idea to say, hey, this was handmade. This was built by 2 hands by a sim named Edward Grant from the 1800s. But of course there's updated plumbing. So they did add in a new toilet and also some stuff to hang onto the walls. And I thought, simpleness, a little hay, rug, some posters, some cobwebs, and even some holes in the wall because it is a basement and it's very old and not really well upkept. So I think the idea was there and I feel like I executed it pretty okay. But to say all that, I do hope you all enjoyed today's video as much as I did. Please let me know down in the comments below, as always, of what you thought of this build, especially what are you doing for the fall season. But regardless, I hope you all enjoyed it. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a video. And I will see you all next time. Bye!